pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Member Daschle?
Here.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Here.
Member Young?
Yes.
Member Hurley?
Here.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Okay, first on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. One thing I'd like to point out, I think we've all figured this one out, discussion item 5A, that should be 1303 Gulf Way, as opposed to Paso Grill Way.
5B.
Oh, 5B. I have it as 5A.
Did something come on?
I don't know, I got the one from up there.
So we had republished the agenda. That might have been the reason for the change in the number, but I did want to say that the design review, thank you for pointing that out, that I am asking to withdraw from the agenda. They will be coming back in February for that item.
They're
So-
withdrawing what one?
Discussion item 5B on the current published agenda, the design review. That will be brought back in a later month.
Oh, okay. And so 5A is just the lot split,
Correct.
which was that okay, I got you. So I just had an old one. All right.
And then I'd just like to add a discussion or announcement item for the museum at the end.
Okay, and one other thing, just for a very short discussion, I just have a couple just brief questions, kind of of you, Brandon, just kind of get an update on some of the stuff and, what's going on. It won't be long.
Okay.
And that would be an update based on the hurricane damage. Okay. All right, next we have,
I think we have to approve it.
oh, yes, I know, you're right.
A motion to approve the agenda for the Thursday, January 9th, 2025 meeting with the addition of 2 discussion items and the removal of item 5B.
I second.
Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith? Member Daschle?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, at this point, we're at the audience comments, which allows each of you, if you want to come up and speak, you can at this point, if you have like general comments you want to make. If you're here to speak about something that's on the agenda, you can wait and talk about it at that point. So this is just for people who want to speak in general. If there's, does anybody want to speak in general? Okay, then let's move forward. Approval of the minutes. Says any of the members here had an opportunity to read the minutes? I have, so I'll just make a motion to approve the minutes of December 12th, 2024.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Yes.
Member Daschle?
Yes.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next we're action items 4. First is 4A, which is the local historic designation number 24102 for the residents at 1601 Paso Grill Way. Who from staff is presenting that?
I'll present that. Thank you, Chair. Can we pull up the PowerPoint, please? So our first case, this is both 1601 and 1603 Paso Grill Way, 2 individual single-family structures. The applicant owner is Beth Jostron. They are requesting local historic designation of both residences at the subject property. Here's some historic photographs. This is attached to the 1936 property card showing the southern structure, the main residence, as well as a portion of the residence to the north. You'll see in subsequent photos that they have not been dramatically altered. What's interesting about these structures is that they were developed in the Tudor Revival style. The southern structure is the only residential structure in Paso Grill that's included on the registry. That is a prime example of this. The northern structure was noted to be a frame vernacular with Tudor Revival features. That was as of the 2003 boundary increase. We have very few of these structures here in St. Pete Beach. The Palm Crest Resort Motel up at 4200 Gulf Boulevard is another example of this. You can see the structures, and it might be better in later photos. There's the rounded tower at the corner. They both have the timbering at the roof line, the southern structure over the entryway, the northern structure above the front-facing gable. They have the steep pitched roofs. Those are all emblematic and common features of the Tudor Revival style. Here's the northern structure from the 2003 boundary increase, showing the structure as well as fairly unaltered. And here are some current photos of the structures. Again, fairly well maintained, even looking back at the oldest photos we have on file. Staff supports the application, designate the primary residence and secondary residence as local historic resources. I found the buildings to be significant in that they are both good examples of the Tudor Revival style. This is very uncommon in our city, despite the fact that it was a very popular style in the 1930s when they were built. I believe 1 in 4 structures nationwide were the Tudor Revival. I don't know why it didn't make its way down here, but these are 2 well-preserved examples of that style, and they have been very well maintained and remain in good condition. Staff requests a motion to approve this case for local historic designation of the primary residence and the secondary garage apartment at 1601 and 1603 Paso Grill Way.
All right, is there any members in the audience that want to speak to this? Anybody present?
Thanks for that great description. We learned a little bit. I'm John Jostrand. This is my wife, Beth.
Yeah, come up to the microphone if you would, please, sir.
I'll project a little bit. Seen pictures. I brought a few, but that's okay. Those came from the previous owners. The only thing I'd like to add, since there were no, thank you, Brandon, by the way, no pictures of the interior, inside that vaulted roof, inside that vaulted ceiling, is a Peckycypress ceiling. And I think that's equally unique. I've not seen any others in the Paso Grill area. I bet Tia perhaps has.
No, not many.
Yeah, we did a renovation in 2003 and tried to find some, and it was really difficult 12 years ago to find it in a bedroom that we remodeled. We came through the storms very nicely. Thank you very much, whoever built the house. There's some discussion about as to who that was. It was built up, not to FEMA standards, but about 5 feet above mean high tide, well, above the seawall. And the seawall is about 3 feet above mean high tide. So we came through the storm fairly well. We lost our dock. Many people did, not unusual. We had extensive landscaping to redo. As you all remember, in Paso Grill, the water was up about here. And so the major thing we had to do was get dehumidifiers and blowers into our crawl space, and that took about 10 days and several kilowatts from Duke Energy. The last thing I'd like to say is there's some urban legend surrounding this house. We heard from the granddaughter of the person that lived in the house for many years. We're not sure if he was the original builder. Maybe you know?
I don't know. I might have some notes on it, but I'll.
Yeah. In any event, the granddaughters suggest, and I haven't done any research, I don't intend to because I like this story, that their grandfather won the house in a card game. We don't know what he put up into the pot as to match the title, but that's the grandkids' story, and we're sticking with it.
That's good.
Thank you all for this important work you do for the city and especially Paso Grill. Thanks.
Well, I think I speak for all of us. You got that house you have is so great. We've always referred to it as the enchanted cottage. At least my family always calls it. So
I'm going to add that to the folklore.
there you go.
Thank you.
So nice.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any comments or discussion?
No, just made my heart happy to see it on the agenda for this month, so thank you for taking such good care of it.
Anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Motion to approve case number 24102 for designation of the primary residence and secondary garage apartment residence at 1601 and 1603 Paso Grill Way as local historic resources.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Member Daschle?
Yes.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out, I think it's interesting about how your house did not get flood damage. There's a number of old houses that didn't either, and it really was a difference, I think, in whether they built them up 3 feet or 4.5 feet or whatever. So I'm glad to hear there's more of them out there that survived it.
It's got great bones.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, 4B, local historic designation, case number 24107, which is the residence at 111 10th Avenue.
We get the PowerPoint, please.
Okay,
This is 111 10th Avenue. It contains 3 structures. Applicant owner is Eileen Gunther. They're requesting local historic designation of the 2-story single-family residence, the garage, and the guest residence on the property. Some photographs. This is one of the oldest structures still remaining in Paso Grill, definitely one of the first 10. It was originally, I believe, according to the applicant, developed by Ransom Miles, who platted Morey Beach in the late 1800s. That was, I guess, when we learned to not build on the beach itself. This is on 10th Avenue, of course, and this is the structure shown in as attached to the 1936 property card. This is a 1996 local historic survey. This was not done for National Register purposes, but we do have a photo from that time. You can see the additions to the structure, but it does retain both the front entry as well as the exposed rafter tails, the other craftsman style features of the residence. This is as part of the boundary increase in 2003, in which the structure was found as a contributing structure to the National Register Historic District. There have been fairly minimal alterations since that time, which you can see here in 2004, and this does show the 2 structures at the back, both the garage and the guest residence. There is a non-contributing carport that is unattached that you can see in the top right of the screen. That was a fairly recent addition, but the other 3 structures were deemed to be contributing to the district and are proposed for local historic designation. Staff does support the application for all 3 of these structures. The primary structure exemplifies the broad social history of the city. It is a very well-preserved example of one of the earliest remaining structures in Paso Grill. The structure was built at a time that the area was a leisure-focused residential community. It saw a significant later expansion and year-round occupancy through the late 1910s. The structure also continues to embody the distinct visual characteristics of the craftsman and frame vernacular styles and the period, which is in the early 20th century. Especially on the main residence, you see some of that craftsman adornment that tended to fall by the wayside later in the first half of the century. So it's great that those features have still been preserved. So staff recommends a motion to approve this case for local historic designation of the primary residence, guest house, and garage.
okay. Any citizens here to speak on behalf of this property? Okay. Any discussion or comments by members of the board?
I have a question. You said the 3 structures recommended for approval. That's the main house, the guest house, and what's the third?
The garage.
Garage, not the carport, though.
No, the carport it's a separate structure. It was a later addition.
I would just like to say what a gift it is to go by that property every day and just see how meticulously maintained it is. And even today, it reminds me of being when I was a little girl, growing up in Paso Grill, driving everybody crazy. Going by there, it looks so much the same today as it did then, and it's such a gift to have that in the community.
Well, personally, in the mid-'70s, I guess it was, I, on a couple spring breaks, would have slept in that little tiny room or unattached building in the back, because my sister rented the house next door, that was owned by the same guy that owned that house. Frank, I can't think of his last name. He obviously passed a long time ago, so I have fond memories on that sandy alley myself. Okay,
I'd like to make a motion.
please.
I move to approve case number 24107 for the designation of the 2-story primary residence, garage, and guest house at 111 10th Avenue as local historic resource.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Madam Clerk?
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Yes.
Member Daschle?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on, 4C, local historic designation, case number 24109 for the residence at 3211 Gulf Boulevard.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, board members, Gil Martinez, Senior
Gil.
Planner, Community Development. Before you today is case number 24109, local historic designation for the property located at 3211 Gulf Boulevard. The applicants are Kevin and Patricia Hughes. Here's some images of the property from 2011, 2015, and most recently in 2024. Staff findings and recommendations. Staff supports this application to locally designate 3211 Gulf Boulevard as a historic property. Staff finds that the building is significant in the following areas. A, it exemplifies and reflects a broad cultural and political, economic, and social history of the city. It also embodies the distinctive visible characteristics of an architectural style. Recommendation is a motion to approve case number 24109 for local historic designation for the single-family residence at 3211 Gulf Boulevard. And I believe Mr. Hughes is here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Mr. Hughes, you want to come forward? Hi. Please state your name for the record, please.
Kevin Hughes, 3211 Gulf Boulevard. It's interesting because if you hang around here long enough, you become part of the history. My grandfather bought this house from a gentleman that Mr. Hurley will know fairly well. Colonel Hurley sold the place to my grandfather. I thought it was 52. I think I'm wrong because reading some of the book that Frank Jr. wrote, it seems like it's probably more like 53, 54. This building is part of the same property as one that's designated known as the Bew House. It was been used for many years for housing for people who did work at the house, and my groundskeeper still lives there. The other side, I got the same tenant that we've had. How long, Dan? 70s. Yeah. He's been living there since the 70s. Funny how we were talking about elevation and how it's just a little bit. The house, my house itself, the White House that's 3210, it sits on there's a little bit of a spine on the west side of the island, and it was also built up about 2 feet. And I was 6 inches from being in real trouble over there with this storm. Got the cottage, unfortunately, but we're looking to take care of it, renovate it, rebuild it, get things back to normal. And I still have the original brochure from when the Colonel sold the place to my grandfather. I couldn't bring it in because his pictures were about yay by yay. I had the thing framed. The brochure is about that big by that big, double-sided, which back in that time probably cost the Colonel a whole bunch of money. But
Was this what we're looking at, where it's like the drawn, almost like cartoon map? We have something on the computer that's probably...
Yeah, what you're referring to was an excerpt from the original brochure.
Even mentioning next to the main residence was the casino. I think we all know that doesn't mean what we think it means today. But.
Yeah, no, the property, that is actually on the west side of the property. That was more of a, it was more, the best term to use now is a mud room. Because it had showers for people coming off the beach. So, because you really didn't want sand in the house, and that building was, was basically a mud room and another little place to gather.
Yeah, I know that on the beaches, they talked about having the casinos, back in the 20s and stuff. I think it was more of a dance hall or a banquet location. It wasn't a gambling site or anything like that. Very nice. Okay, and you answered some of the questions I was going to have. I always thought the cottage was connected with the other house, but was never really sure. And
Yeah, it's all been Right now, it's listed in the county as two separate properties because when I became a Florida resident, could only split off the property on the one side of the road for homestead.
Gotcha.
So if I wasn't a Florida resident, that property it would all be one property still.
Just with a Gulf Boulevard right-of-way going through it?
Yeah. Well,
You could put a toll up there and charge everyone.
and well, actually, there's a piece of El Centro that was I don't know what the appropriate term was, condemned, converted.
Vacated, probably.
Yeah, El Centro basically stopped at the north wall and the south wall. El Centro actually ran through there when the house was originally built.
And when was that, the house originally built? The big house?
The Bew house, from what I hear, was 38.
Okay, so it was after the Don was built, though, so.
But Mr. Goldman, who was the guy who bought the house from Mrs. Bew, and basically that is not the original house or anything near it. You know, he's like everybody says, well, I'm just going to make a few quick renovations. Well, by the time he was done, it was not a quick renovation and it was not a cheap one.
It's a beautiful location, I love it.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? All right, I'll make a motion that we locally historically designate 3211 Gulf Boulevard, which is case number 24109.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk?
Member Young,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith,
Yes.
Member Daschle,
Yes.
Member Hurley,
Yes.
Chair Lowry.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Action item 4D, local historic designation number, or case number 24110, the residence at 105 17th Avenue. Hi, Len.
Good afternoon. Ivy Bevel, the owner of the property, could not make the meeting today, but she did okay it going forward if the board so agreed.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Oops, I go backwards. Okay, this is a local historic designation of 105 17th Avenue, case number 24110. And the owners, Ivy and Blake Bevel, have requested local historic designation of this duplex residence on the property. Got some historic photographs of the property. That was quick. I'm going to go back to the other one, show the picture. Some of the features of this property are that it's a masonry vernacular. It was built in 1941. It's stucco over block. It has a hip roof, asphalt shingles, and the windows are paired with, they're called a ribbon window, and those are the ones that go around the corner. And they are encased in, I think they're probably aluminum, but metal casements. My house has metal casements, a lot of them. The structure supports the character of the Paso Grill neighborhood through its architectural integrity, and it has been well maintained. Come on. On staff's findings and recommendations, staff supports this application to locally designate 105 17th Avenue as a historic property. It reflects the architectural character and integrity of the Paso Grill National Register Historic District, and it reflects the broad cultural, economic, and social history of Paso Grill and St. Pete Beach. Glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Then I'm pretty certain this home was built by Joe Marsh, who was the same builder as the Camelot, which was at the time the Cameo. I probably have some family records on this building that I'd be happy to share.
And the owner may have some of those records as well. Okay, anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll make a motion, case number 24110, for the local historic designation of the residents there at 105 17th Avenue.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith,
Yes.
Member Daschle,
Yes.
Member Hurley,
Yes.
Member Young,
Yes.
Chair Lowry,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, 4E, local historic designation, case number 24113 for the home at 3501 Casablanca Avenue. Mr. Martinez?
Good afternoon, board members. For the record, Gil Martinez. This is an application for local historic designation for the structure at 3501 Casablanca Avenue. Case number 24113. The applicants are Mr. and Mrs. Paul Natalie Looney. Here are some images of the property from 2011 and 2024. Staff recommends approval of the local historic designation of this residential structure located at 3501 Casablanca Avenue because it embodies the distinctive visible characteristics of the architectural style of the period and the method of construction. I believe that Mr. Looney and Mrs. Looney may be here to answer any questions.
Okay.
Staff recommends a motion to approve case number 24113 for local historic designation of the single-family residence at 3501 Casablanca Avenue.
Right, Mr. or Mrs. Looney, would you like to come forward? If there's,
She just walked in.
what timing? Hey, come on up to the microphone if you will, and just so you know, we've already had the staff speak about it and make a recommendation, and so just state your name for the record and tell us anything you'd like to tell us about it.
People to like model after. Hi, my name is Natalie Looney. My husband and I own the property at 3501 Casablanca Avenue. We've had the house for about 3 years, and we just moved in full-time in July. So it's been quite an interesting adjustment to being in St. Petersburg. I'm an Eckerd College graduate, so I've been part of this community off and on since the 90s. And I've always been looking at property up and down the beaches, trying to find, a little cottage or just something that I could call my own. Sorry, I'm a little breath. Anyway, so luckily we happened to find this cute little house on Casablanca Avenue, and I would just love to see it preserved. Sorry, we're kind of at a point where these older houses, there's a lot of things, obstacles against them, and I'm just glad that there's a board that is here to help preserve some of the original structures and some of the community feel that we have up and down the beaches. So I would just hope that this house could be preserved and kept as it is. We don't have any intentions of adding a second story I know you always have these thoughts, like, should we tear it down? What should we do to, keep it? But in reality, if we did any of those things, it would not be the same house. It would be something totally different. And I just would love to see that house, the way it looks, the feel that it gives when you come into St. Pete Beach. I would just love for that to be preserved if possible. And we love being members of this community. My kids go to school in Paso Grill, so we try to stay on the beaches as much as we can. We try not to cross the bridge if we don't have to. So being down on the beach area is really important to us. I think that's, sorry, about all I have.
No, that's fine. Can I just ask you a question? We've kind of been going through this with some of the people. Did your house get much damage in the storm?
Yeah, so
The only reason I ask is
Yeah.
some people didn't, some didn't, and I'm...
Yeah, it's, so our street's pretty interesting. Most houses are one story, and our neighbors, luckily had said, you should get these door dams. So we had the 3-foot door dams at the doors, and we'd never had water. It's never been in the structure before. And the water, I think, was maybe an inch or two above the door dam, and it just was able to go over the door dam. So we had about 26 inches.
Right.
Just on the main level. And the water, it appears, we're really working hard with contractors trying to figure out how to, make the house more watertight, because I've been reading about like dry flood proofing and different things. And, sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say. Anyway, yeah, so the water came in, it appears quickly and it went out quickly.
Right.
Because the furniture just swirled kind of towards the middle and the front of the house. So it's really fascinating. So I feel like there's only a few places where it came in and out. It's just trying to figure out where those fails were. So yes, I think it was pretty standard up and down the beach, like on our street at
Yeah, I
least.
think it was too, but some houses are built a little bit higher than others, or there's a
Yeah.
little bit of grade difference.
Yeah, we're at 4.7 base flood elevation, so we have a little extra. Like I said, we really thought we'd only come home to like 2 inches,
Right.
but we didn't, so.
Yeah, I had a friend that had one of those door dams, and he sent me a video that showed how well it kept the water inside the house when he opened the dam and it all came
Well,
out.
I'm guessing ours came in and out a different route. I don't really know. I wish we had cameras to show us what actually happened.
Okay.
But I was also going to mention, sorry, I came in kind of like a little bit of a whirlwind. I've also learned through this, we have some really amazing residents on Casablanca. We still have some really long-term residents. And when I was trying to like figure out, you know, what history do we have in this house and what is there significant, it's amazing the oral history that still exists on our street. And just a lot of support from the neighbors, you know, trying to do what we can to kind of, you know, keep people from leaving. I think that's kind of one of the fears. But anyway, it was really neat to find out that there is so much history and it's still preserved among some of the long-term residents. So I hope that's something we can capture through all this.
Yeah, in my
before
opinion,
it's
I
gone.
think your house is just an excellent example of mid-century modern, very interesting looking home.
Yeah, according to the contractor, it was what did he say? This was a period, he built this house to be against norms, because there's like an angled fireplace and just everything you could possibly do to make it not typical.
Right, it's very neat.
Yeah.
All right.
I
Anybody have
do
any other
agree, and it's
questions?
a nice gateway to the beach too. You know, we have that anchor, that bold
Yeah.
statement of the Don Cesar there, but the approach is, it's just a really nice feel coming into the beach there. I love that. That's our welcome mat, and thanks for protecting it.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve case number 24113 for designation of the single-family residence at 3501 Casablanca Avenue as a local historic resource.
Second?
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Member Daschle?
Yes.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, 4F, local historic designation number 24114 for the Paso Girl Women's Club located at 2201 Paso Girl Way.
Pull up the PowerPoint, please.
Thank you, Brandon.
So this is our only redesignation for today. We can talk about procedurally redesignations later on under discussion, but again, this is 2201 Paso Girl Way. Laura Bettig, of the president of Paso Girl Women's Club, is the applicant. They're requesting redesignation of the primary club building as a local historic resource. It was placed in the city's local historic registry in 1996, but that was prior to the city becoming a certified local government, and the benefits that come with listing on the registry requires that the structures be designated while the city is a certified local government.
Brandon, that wasn't.
I'm sorry, that is the wrong photo.
I was going to say, yeah. I was
These
gonna say,
photos
that's
are correct, though. These are all right.
in my mind. All right, all right.
I drive by. I know that stuff.
So this is a structure from 2002. It has been very well preserved. This is showing it in 2015 as part of the city's resurvey of the area. It was part of the boundary increase for the National Register Historic District in 2003. In 2015, it was resurveyed and found to be a contributing structure. And it's actually one of the few structures in the city that was noted to be a potential National Register resource on its own. So it is eligible. The structure was originally designed by Winfield Lott, who also designed the Beach Theater. He was responsible for several other municipal, generally recreational buildings over in St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg actually just designated the Mirror Lake Historic District. One of his structures was included in that as well, so we could potentially look at a thematic grouping sometime in the future for this, the theater and some other structures. But it is a very well preserved structure. It obviously has immense social value in Paso Grill, one of the first, if not one of the only remaining social organizations from prior to the city's incorporation. You can see some photos here of the structure. These were taken just a few days ago. It looks like the landscaping is in the process of being replaced, but the structure itself, at least from the exterior, has been well preserved. Staff does support the application to redesignate this clubhouse. It is a good example of the minimal traditional architectural style. It includes those front-facing gables, moderate roof pitch with minimal overhang. It has been well preserved, especially when viewed from the street rights away. The only additions have been to the back of the structure, which did come forward for a certificate of appropriateness when that was done back in the early 2010s, I believe. Staff recommends planting additional landscaping as was in place prior to the storm where viable. It appears the landscaping on the southern side of the structure that blocked those air handlers had been removed for accessibility purposes. There is a ramp on the southern side, but just that landscaping be replaced where viable. The structure is obviously associated with events that have made significant contribution to the city's local history. It is one of the few extant social organizations from prior to the city's incorporation, and the club did assist with the local war efforts that led to the explosive settlement of Pinellas County and Paso Grill in the post-World War II period. So staff recommends approval to redesignate this structure under case number 24114. That's all I have.
Anybody want to speak? Sure, come up.
Good afternoon. I'm Laurel Bettig. I'm the president of the Paso Grill Women's Club, and with me here today is Elaine Schroeder, our past president and our current House chair. Thank you for considering this application for the redesignation of our clubhouse to be an historic building. Ironically enough, this club was started in 1922 as a result of a hurricane that started a fire in a resident's home in Paso Grill. And several women in the neighborhood wanted to help their neighbor, and so they got together to offer assistance through what was then called a pound party, where you brought a pound of nails, a pound of flour, a pound of sugar, etc. And the women loved not only helping their neighbor, but the sense of community they got from doing something for the Paso Grill community as a whole. And so they decided they wanted to continue to do those types of charitable acts. So from that day forward and to this day, one of the major missions of the club is to contribute to our community. It had several locations until 1937 when construction began at its current location, and it opens its doors at its current location in 1938. Since then, the exterior of the structure has remained unchanged and is a constant reminder for all who pass by of the good the club does, from our Santa breakfast to cooking for Ronald McDonald House and contributing not only money but volunteer hours to Daystar and other charities. It's well known for its home tour and Chowder Challenge community events co-sponsored by the city for the public to enjoy. And a portion of those proceeds from these events was always put aside to donate to charity. So, in conclusion, I think not only is it has been maintained beautifully by the members of the club throughout the years since 1938. I would like to add that, yes, on the landscaping portion, we had recently redone all the landscaping in native Florida plants. We suffered a lot of damage from the hurricane, but we intend to reinstall that, and we have some plans to put a walkway through. We're going to label all the plantings, so it'll be a place where the public can walk by and stop and go in and get educated about native Florida plants. As a member of this club, and now its president, I'm just extremely honored to be part of this history from over 100 years, 1922, and we're continuing to go strong, and we intend to renovate it, and hopefully it'll be there for another 100 years. It's very well built, all wood. It's what they call the balloon strike type structure. And so we appreciate your taking our application under consideration. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I would just like to add, I walk by almost every morning and I see your team of people out there, volunteers, working and planting, and I saw all the beautiful plants you planted right before the hurricanes.
Right.
And the pride that everybody takes in the work that you do there speaks for itself. So I have no doubt it will be back to its full glory.
We just had it repainted. I mean, we really are extreme. It's our pride and joy. And it's member maintained. We don't have, a big corporate structure overlooking us or helping us. It's all from the love of the members that building continues to look as good as it does and serve such an important purpose in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a great place and has so much past growth history. It's excellent.
Thank you.
With that being said.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Motion to approve case number 24114 for the redesignation of the clubhouse building at 2201 Paschal Way as a local historic resource.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Member Hawkinsmith?
Yes.
Member Daschle?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on, 4G, certificate for appropriateness for the demolition of the Shuffleboard Court Clubhouse located at 101 9th Avenue, which is case number 24118. Who has the misfortune of bringing this one?
That's mine.
All right.
We could pull up the PowerPoint.
We all got our eggs underneath.
So this is a city application, of course. The city is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to demolish the Shuffleboard Court Clubhouse building. It was listed on the city's registry back in 2010, and it is also a contributing resource as a site on the Paschal Park site. So here you can see the aerial of the building. This is commented on in the staff report, but this is outside of the coastal A zone, which means that a reconstruction of a building like this could relatively remain of the same look at grade. There would be venting requirements and flood-resistant material requirements, but the east side of the lot is within the coastal A zone. It has those higher velocity standards. Where the structure is located, it could be reconstructed with generally the same look as it has today. Here's some photographs of the structure. This is pre-storm, of course. And here is the post-storm condition. I did speak to the president of the club just the other day. They are still out there playing shuffleboard, of course not using the building for obvious reasons. You can see the damage to the building. It was moved off its foundation. There is some scour beneath the foundation as well. And so this one side, you can see what appears to be the original supports for what is believed to be the open pavilion style of this structure. So as with any other structure, those that have been placed on the local historic registry cannot be denied demolition because the structure did take advantage of the substantial improvement variance back in 2010. A stay of up to 90 days could be placed on demolition. Due to the extent of damage, staff is recommending approval without a stay. I believe that FEMA was out today to take a look at the structure, and I don't know the results of that, but we should be getting details on that soon. The structure itself is important on the basis of scale. There have obviously been significant exterior alterations to the structure over time, including its enclosure. The structure is more important from a scale and from a recreational standpoint than from an actual aesthetic standpoint, architectural standpoint. Lynn and I are looking at a potential, and I'm blanking on the name of it now, but a grant coming up in the next cycle for a possible reconstruction grant for both this as well as the Mary Pier building. We are under a little bit of a deadline for the Mary Pier building. We only have 2 years to reconstruct it, given that it's over water. That is a limitation that the county places on reconstruction of buildings over water. But we don't have that limitation for the clubhouse. We are looking into a grant application this year. Special category grant, I'm sorry. And that is up to a $500,000 matching grant. So we're looking into the potential for that in the upcoming cycle. So we would have information on that as long as we make application by May. We would probably receive word at the beginning of next year whether those funds could be awarded to this project. And they are eligible for reconstruction of historic resources. So we'll be looking into that and bring that option back to the historic board in the next couple of months. But we are requesting approval for this without a stay on demolition.
Okay, well, that all made a lot of sense. And when you talk about the reconstruction, I know we're going to be brought into this later on from what you said and stuff, but can they make it like exactly the same? Is that what you're, I know there'd be some qualifications, but is it just using different materials, but it's,
So I can't say for every single material, but the exterior elements of the structure, given the location on the site, with it being outside the coastal area, there would be venting requirements. There would be flood-proof material requirements, certainly for the inside, but it appears that it could look relatively close to the way it did pre-storm.
and is it capable of being reconstructive irrespective of whether there's a grant? I mean, is that something that the city could just do on their own if they so want? I mean, what hurdles do we have to jump to get it done, have it reconstructed the way it is?
Well, zoning-wise, there's nothing preventing the building from going back. There's going to be, funding when we receive the funds for the insurance payout and all. But
Okay, so my question, I guess, is, and that's all great, but where's the authority that says we can build it back the way it was?
that would ultimately come back down from the city manager and the city commission when they're ready to move forward.
And I'm not trying to be nefarious, but I'm just asking, but is that because it's a city-owned piece of property, we can make that decision to reconstruct it as it originally was?
Correct. I mean, ultimately, the design would be up to the city. We would bring it back to you as part of the design review as we bring any structure.
And of course, this being not a residence, we don't have to worry about FEMA and elevations and all that kind of stuff, really, do we?
It would need to be flood-proofed if it were a grade, but you wouldn't be subject to the elevation requirements. Correct.
Is it on the agenda for commission, or any part of this on the agenda for commission?
I don't believe the demolition is, no. I believe that was a city manager decision.
I'm assuming budget for 2025 is done. Is there any funding in the budget for 2025 for the rebuilding or renovation or repairs of any of the city-owned?
Not for reconstruction that I'm aware of. The budgeting was for the demolition specifically. So.
And then just sad if we know, so obviously it's going to get demolished, and then it just sits idle. I mean, it's just a blank.
Correct.
Nothing gets put up there temporarily or anything of that nature, right?
I don't believe so, no.
I didn't think so, just asking. All right, so assuming which we don't really have any choice, we'll grant the demolition, you will be putting it on a future calendar once we get an idea about the grant.
Yes.
And who will be doing the design on that, or do we even know that yet?
We don't know at this time.
So I'll just wait. Obviously, first step is knocking it down, right? Okay.
I spoke with someone at the Gulf Beaches Historic Museum today about the shuffleboard court, and they said they would be happy to accept any artifacts or remnants from the shuffleboard court and maintain and curate those.
Fantastic.
And add it onto the back of the museum? I'm kidding,
Sure,
but
just-
no, right. Yeah, okay, and so just so we're clear, we're just talking about the building itself. There's going to be nothing that affects the shuffleboard courts themselves or anything of that nature?
No.
Okay.
There were about 10 people out there playing this morning. It was cold. They're back. Yeah, they're back.
Yeah, they don't live here right now.
Do you have a motion?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness number 24118 for the demolition of the clubhouse at 101 9th Avenue.
I'll second that. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith,
Approve.
Member Daschle,
Yes.
Member Hurley,
Yes.
Member Young,
Yes.
Chair Lowry,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, moving on. 4H, Certificate of Appropriateness for the demolition of the residence at 2105 Gulf Way, case number 24119.
Get the PowerPoint.
Brandon?
Thank you. So this was a late addition to the agenda, 2105 Gulf Way, case 24119. Applicant and owner are Bill and Corey Stover. They're requesting demolition of a two-story single-family residence on the subject property that is deemed contributing to the Paso Grill National Register Historic District. Here's a location of the property. You can see some photographs. This one we actually did have a early photo of. This is from its property card, obviously pre-elevation up there in the top left of the screen. You can see in the bottom right as part of the city's 2015 resurvey, the structure. It has generally retained its massing. You can see the knee braces under the roof line, the louvers, which have been changed out on the primary facade of the roof. It, of course, has been elevated over a elevated patio. Here's some photos from the applicant. So this has not been the recipient of any of the incentives under the city's demolition permit, or local historic designation benefits. So the request could be stayed, but only for 30 days. It is deemed a contributing structure. With respect to the proposed demolition, the Historic Board cannot deny the demolition. However, stays of up to 30 days can be imposed. The applicant, who I believe is present, staff request additional testimony regarding the structural deterioration of the structure, including whether a licensed professional has provided such an assessment. Staff also requests the applicant preserve the historic site wall on the frontage of Bible. It was called out to be determined original in the 2015 resurvey, so we were out there the other day at the site. The wall was still in place. I know the applicant's looking to move forward with the demolition, but we would appreciate comments on whether they plan to preserve that wall. So I believe the applicant's present.
You know, I was speaking today. So we don't really have a...
I'm sorry, just state your name for the record.
Bill Stover.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we don't have a real plan for what we're going to do. We want to build a new house here, born and raised in St. Pete. My dad went to the Sunshine School, graduated in 1953. So, you know, we've been associated with Paso Grill and St. Pete Beach forever. And we want to build a new house there. We want it to be appropriate for the area. But we just haven't gotten to the point of design yet. So I do know that it is that one of the issues is how do you demo a property like that over a wall like that? I mean, that is a problem. You can't really go in from the back, from the alley side and block the alley. So I don't know what that process would be. I don't know how we would necessarily save that wall because it's just not, I'm not a demo person, so I don't really know what the requirements are, but I do know that they said it would be very difficult to try to do that without potentially damaging the wall or causing potential other structural issues, since the homes next door to each are pretty close by.
Yeah.
You can't really come in from the side either.
Right. And just like say, so Brandon, that's just a question that we have that's been answered.
Not a requirement.
It's not a requirement or anything I would base a
I
decision
guess
on. It
what
was just...
all we're saying is if there's some way it can be saved, that would be great.
Right, I mean...
obviously. But that's balls in your...
Or we can, you know, I mean, ultimately, when we rebuild, we most likely have a wall there anyway, so
Yeah.
our property
You can
stays...
save the blocks and just-
is secure, but, you know, we can also, you know, whether or not it might look, I don't know what the house will look like yet. We're not even there yet.
Yeah.
You know, we had about 2 feet of water through the place and mold and everything else, so it's just been kind of a disaster since, and then we got the roof ripped off part of it from Milton, so it's just been a real kind of difficult time.
Okay. Well, does anybody on the board have any, I mean, obviously we could delay it for 30 days if we wanted to, but is there
I don't see
any reason to do
delay
that?
being inevitable.
I don't either. The only thing I would ask, obviously, you know the drill a little bit when you make the plans for your new home. I mean, please get in contact with the city early on. I mean,
Right.
obviously, there's a lot of styles you can do, and we're big fans of the ones that are a little more historic. And
I understand.
and maybe by that time, some of the ordinances might even change to try to tighten that up a little bit. But that would be great, you know, the people, so, you know, we'd appreciate that. And then we'll see you in some future date, I suppose, here.
Yeah, well, you have to approve it anyway, so
Yeah,
hopefully
well, I know, I mean.
we make it attractive
Right.
Bring back the wall.
and appropriate.
Build the wall. Build the wall.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you, Mrs. Stover.
Is there any version of our design guideline that's shareable yet? Or our guidebook? Or
We-
handbook?
It's finalized for the workshop on, oh, sorry, the design guidebook. No, that is something we're going to be starting soon. I have a meeting with our consultant shortly, so.
Yeah, we obviously got sidetracked on all that, but understandably.
We are working on a
Right.
guidelines design book to share with people who are building new homes. When that's available, obviously, we'll let you know. So.
All right, with that, I'll make a motion that we grant a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of 2105 Gulf Way, which is case number 24119, and we will not request a 30-day stay.
And I'll
So no
second.
stay. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Yes.
Member Daschle?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Okay, now I think if this is correct, we're on to number 5, which is a discussion item. 5A, which is the lot split requested, case number 24112 at the residence at 104 12th Avenue.
We get the PowerPoint pulled up. So this is 104 12th Avenue. I believe the applicants are present, and they are requesting approval to split the property to its original platted condition, being Morey Beach Block 3, Lots 6 and 7, which would each be sized to support one single-family residence constructed the house medium building type of the Paso Grill Overlay District or the underlying RLM2 zoning district. That is based on the current standards, based on the drafted upcoming ordinance that would remove the ability to build to the underlying zoning district. The existing contributing residence and outbuilding are on the western side of the existing property. I'll show that in just a moment. So here you can see the proposed split for the property. I have asked the applicant for a new survey that shows that split prepared by a surveyor, which I understand they're working on. This is 2 full lots of the Morey Beach subdivision. The western side of the lot, the western side of the platted lot, contains 2 single-story, single-family residences. Those are both proposed for demolition. That would be coming forward to you through a certificate of appropriateness for demolition. The eastern side of the lot is vacant. However, they are combined. Any lot split in Paso Grill is required to receive City Commission approval, and we have been bringing these requests forward to the Historic Board for commentary as well. I did want to point out that the alleyway to the south is 10 feet. The alleyway to the east is 18 feet. So should there be reconstruction after the new standards are adopted, we would ask that the eastern lot have access from the alleyway. The western lot would be allowed an access from 12th Avenue. So I just wanted to point that out.
What was the last thing? The western lot would be access from where?
It would be allowed access from 12th Avenue based on how the standards are drafted. And this would all come down to when the applicant makes application as well as whether those standards are adopted.
Right. Okay, and on that note, just so for future discussion, I know we've talked about it before when we talked about alleyways and what the platted widths of them were. And is 10 feet, as far as you know, that is the platted width of that particular alley there?
I believe so, yes.
And so the way, you'll have to refresh me if you can, and again, this is for future reference, but you know what I'm getting at, right? So when we talked about potentially making the alleys, the exits and egress for parking, what was the width we had on that?
It's 15 feet.
Okay. And this is one alley that is it, do you know whether it's 10 feet the whole length of it, the east-west length?
I'm fairly sure. I believe we only have a few alleyways toward the northern end that have varying widths throughout. I believe it's 10 feet.
Okay, and for future reference again, you know, can we at some point when we talk about those potential changes find out exactly how many alleys are less than 15 feet? Because I know when we discussed it, 15 was kind of an arbitrary term. And I'm just thinking that 10 feet can get a car down it as long as, you know, we might have to have it one way or something like that, but.
Yeah, I could come up with that. Yes.
All right, good. Okay, and then after if these do get split, these are actually basically 50 by 100, that's what it turns out to be. It looks like,
44, is it
44.
44 by 100?
okay. Yeah, it's strange, because it says 50 feet in the middle. Is that because, maybe I'm looking at something strange here. So this would be, what would the two lot sizes be?
They would be 44 by 100,
Okay.
which is the minimum for that zoning.
Right, and but they were originally platted as two to start with.
Correct.
And they were
yes.
combined at some point. All right. And of course, this is just a discussion item, meaning that you're just looking for us to give some guidance so you can tell the commission what our feelings about it was.
Correct, yes.
All right, well, chair people, board members, what do you think about this? I'm gonna tell you, I'm familiar with the property. I know that lot's probably been vacant forever, maybe. I don't know if they ever had anything on it. And most of those lots right there are all that same width, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
So will our approval for demolition include a requirement for, or approval for the lot division include a requirement for the demolition? Because if not, then you have two single-family homes on one single-family lot with encroaching setbacks.
Right, that's something we handle administratively. The demolition needs to be completed prior to us approving it through the property appraiser. They would approve that split. So,
So do we
correct.
need to put that language in our motion?
That'd be good.
But do we really have a motion, or we just have a motion to make a
But
recommendation?
this is just a discussion.
Oh, you're talking about
Yeah, this is
when the
just discussion
demolition
now,
occurs.
When the,
Right. But at this stage, we're just, you will go from this to the commission and,
If there were any comments that the board had that you would like us to carry forward, which that's certainly one, we'll bring those up to the commission.
does anybody have any comments that you'd like to hear the commission hear about this potential lot split?
No, if they remove the multi-units on the one half of it, it would meet all the requirements. 'Cause
Yes.
it's a single-family home and a studio on the west side, which, as it sits, would meet density requirements for the entire parcel, but if they remove that, then it would be open.
I have spoken with the applicant, and they understand that they would be allowed one single-family residence per lot, so.
Just out of curiosity, it's two single-family residents by the same owner though, right? And how is this any distinct, how's this a distinction from like a garage apartment that's unattached? Just that it's not a garage or what?
They would still be treated as one density unit. Some municipalities allow for garage apartments at a certain size or in a certain location to not count against the density regulations. St. Pete Beach does not do that.
Right, so there's quite a number of homes that built, garage apartments in the back. And so, at least the way it is now, in the future, if somebody demolishes that, they can't rebuild it the way it was, correct?
Well, we do have that special provision in Paso Grill, which is being retained in the new amendments, that if someone has a non-conforming structure, which is very common down in Paso Grill, they do have the ability to rebuild it. Now, the current constraint, from what I've heard from property owners, is that there can be no additional square footage added onto that structure in the rebuild, which can make it challenging with building and fire
Okay,
codes.
yeah, I've heard that, right, okay.
But they have the ability, even if they were to have 3 units, they would have the ability to rebuild, but they would be limited to that square footage.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay. All right, you think you've heard what you need to hear?
I think so.
Go forward, okay. All right, so we had some other items for discussion.
It states that we're supposed to make a motion, but
Does it?
I had moved that on. If the board is, if you made your comments, you don't need to provide a motion. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
You do something wrong? I'm just kidding. Okay, so now we're talking about some of the additions we've had to the agenda. And so Brandon, I just wanted to ask you some general questions. I get a lot of people that are asked questions, on Paso Grill about, there's substantial damage letters, or they haven't got it yet, that kind of stuff. And you and I have talked about that, and so I'm just trying to satisfy some of my own curiosity. And it seems like lately there's a new little wrinkle that the city's telling people to go ahead and have their houses appraised. Weren't we initially just going by the property appraiser's value? Has that changed, or I've just been hearing that in the last week?
So, and this is only for structures that are not on the local historic registry. We are no longer sending letters, substantial damage letters, to property owners with a home on the historic registry when they are eligible for a substantial improvement exception. They can just proceed right on to permitting. For anyone else, we have based our damage values on the property appraiser's estimates. One of the most straightforward ways to appeal is to have a certified appraisal that shows that our estimate of the damage is less than 50% of the reappraised market value of the structure. If someone hasn't contracted yet to have their home repaired, if they don't have that estimate for the cost to restore the structure, having that appraisal is one way that they can appeal without necessarily having that in place. So
Right, and I knew that's the way it kind of was. I mean, that's what I had been hearing in the past, and that made sense. But I've recently heard from 2 properties who claim they have not got a substantial damage letter, but they're being told by the city to go ahead and get an appraisal, a new appraisal. Do you hear anything like that? Which is, I just wanted to, maybe they've changed and they've decided not to go with the property appraiser, because these folks don't even know what the percentage is, you know what I mean? And so I could see how it could be advantageous in the long run, but I thought maybe there'd been some procedural change that they're being told to do it before they even get a letter.
I'm not aware of that. The only thing I can think of is it does take us several days to process that data once it comes in, so it might be known, but there might not be a letter produced yet. So,
well, and obviously you can see I wouldn't want people to go to get a new appraisal if it turns out they're not substantially damaged, then they just wasted their time in a way. On the other hand, if the city's not using the property appraiser's appraisal, then that makes sense. That's why I was wondering if there's been a change or something.
no, that's still the basis unless we have information to the contrary. So.
I think for some people, if they had 4 feet of water in their homes and they don't have their substantial damage letter yet, they can probably assume they're going to get one.
Well, they certainly can, because everyone gets substantially damaged even when they aren't, because you're getting a lot of appeals of people who, you know, I had a lady who all she needs to do is sand her floors, and they said her house was like 78% damaged. And it wasn't. I mean, you know, because no one got in the house. They're just making there's guesswork. So, I mean, I think you're right, Tia, but the way I heard it came a little bit different. That's why I was questioning whether there had been a change in what the city was doing.
But I think substantially damaged or not substantially damaged, it behooves somebody to get that appraisal, because regardless of the percentage, it could be a lesser percentage depending upon the appraisal value.
Yes, and it could, depending on your situation, show your loss, if you've taken a loss on your property, you know, for your tax purposes.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's not a valid reason to do that, just the way it came to me questioned whether we were still operating under what I thought was going from the property appraisers, which apparently we are. So the people that have said something to me, they have either not given me the full story, they don't quite understand what's going on. So that's all I wanted to know.
And I haven't heard anything to the contrary, but.
And I would do this in private, but I think if actually someone's listening, they can maybe hear something, you know, so that's why I'm saving it for these kind of situations. Okay, well, that's really good. And we still don't know on the substantial damage letters, that we don't really know. I got a question. Is everyone on the beach going to get one, even if you're FEMA compliant, or only the non-FEMA compliant homes? Do you know the answer to that?
That is a good question. City manager's coming up.
Oh, hello, hi.
Hello. Good afternoon. Right now, the plan is to try to get everyone a letter.
Right.
So even, we have a group of residents now in Vina in particular, where there was probably no water intrusion at all in that neighborhood based on the flood elevation. Maybe a few. But even in those cases, we're starting to look at flood elevation. And if you were above, I think 7.25 is the number we're using right now, we're going to send you a letter and say you had none. So we
Okay.
want every property to have something in the record, given the substantial
Sure,
nature
I
of
understand
this.
why you would want to do that, I just didn't know.
And then,
yeah.
you know, in case they want to sell down the road, that they have an official document
Gotcha.
from the city of whether or not there was water.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I just, you know, I know it's, you know, we don't really have a calendar on when everyone's gonna get them, or forget, if it's neighborhood by neighborhood, I realize there's a private entity kind of involved in sending those things, but, okay, I thank you very much, that answers some of that.
I think the website's been a great resource as well, to be able to go on and pull up the permits and just type in the address. And I've been able to actually help a lot of neighbors in Vina to try to find out what their percentages are and get the ball rolling for them, whatever the direction might be.
John?
Hi, thank you. I have a couple of general questions about this whole substantial damage issue. We received a non-substantial damage letter, and I'm curious as to how the percentage was determined. I have no quarrel with the value the tax assessor says the structure is worth or valued at, but I'm very curious about how the percentage was determined, because when I apply that percentage to the assessor's valuation, that number was nowhere near the damage we incurred, which, as I said earlier, was essentially minimal.
Well, I don't have an answer to that, but I would also say, maybe you shouldn't ask, I don't know.
I'm leery of kicking the hornet's nest, believe me.
No, right. I don't know, and I don't know,
There's a
Brandon, if you know
letter
the
on
answer
file
either.
that
Right.
says you had 30% damage and you didn't, and then if a storm comes down the way later and it says you have 50% damage and you already had 30% and don't have anything on file that you remedied 30%, I feel like that could be a little bit of a...
You anticipated my second question. Thank you. So this non-substantial determination goes, in a sense, on your permanent file, as we used to say in high school. Is that correct?
It does, but the city now has no cumulative calculation. So what, and other homeowners have asked this as well, if the city sent a letter stating that we assume that your structure sustained 40% damage, but in reality it sustained 10, that's the cost, repair cost of the structure. In the issuance of that permit, in the closeout of that permit, that is effectively the appeal of the higher non-substantial damage. Now, for those homeowners who receive no damage at all, in which they are not going to be applying for a permit at all, I would recommend that you just reach out and request an appeal of the non-substantial damage, because you don't want that to be something that comes up down the line, because it'll be looked at as non-remedy damage. Just so you have that in writing, that it's not an issue.
okay.
Your record expunged.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't have to sit in front of the principal's office anymore. To whom do I make that appeal?
We have, and I can send you the information, it's sdappeal@stpetebeach.org.
SC?
SD, Substantial Damage Appeal.
SD appeal.
At stpetebeach.org.
Thanks. You reminded me of something, and brain cramp.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I'll think of it. sdappeal@stpetebeach.org.
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, thank you. Okay, as far as discussions on those, anything else about that? I know you have something else you want to add, Tia.
Well, I wanted to talk about the museum just very briefly, but then I had one other item. We received late in the day the letter from the attorneys about the redesignation. I don't know if everybody on the board had a chance to get that letter before coming here, but I don't think that our intent was to do a mass blanket redesignation on everything that was designated. I know we need to go through the process, but I thought maybe if we compiled a list of those properties that need to be redesignated rather than wait until there was a need to do it on an individual basis, that might be more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. We can certainly do that. And we have our list. We know which have not been redesignated, so we can have those ready to go. I think our concern is that despite the fact that you saw the the Women's Club today. It obviously deserves to be redesignated on the registry. We just do need to have that pass through because those criteria, the Secretary of the Interior's criteria, were not evaluated when they were placed on the
I
registry.
know it still needs to be documented and photographed and more recently defined before we can approve anything, but to be more proactive than reactive might save us time later. You know, we have a lot on our plates right now, but
Well, you know, for example, in the Women's Club, which we all agree with that, and that was a great presentation that staff put together on that too, because it helps, you know, the whole record, historical record as far as that goes. But on some of these other houses, is there abbreviated review you can do, you know, or there's a file already exists. I think we had a conversation you and I did about some of the files being missing or being, and I don't know the status of that, but, you know.
and because some of the property owners on these properties are not the same as when they were designated
True.
initially, and it's voluntary, maybe they don't want to be. So maybe the initial thing is, you were designated at one time, you have the opportunity to be redesignated, do you want to? And then kind of make our short list from there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. But as Tia mentioned too, which I think makes a lot of sense, if, you know, if you're an absentee owner and you think your house is historic and you got some damage and then you want to get it fixed, and now you realize it's no longer considered historic because it was before 2005, you know, it puts people in a delay mode that causes some anxiety and stuff. So I think we should try to grab the bull by the horns and contact the people to find out if they want to do it or not, right?
And then again, while we're in such close communication with the property appraiser's office for getting all of this flood information correlated, it might not be a bad time to again address the disclosure of historic designation, historic district properties in that public record.
On the property appraiser's record?
On the
that says-
property appraiser's
right.
website, yeah.
Is there even a place for that?
There is.
Okay. All right, anything else?
That's all, unless we want to talk about the museum very quickly.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Gulf Beaches Historic Museum, they have their Super Supper tonight, which is fundraiser and information at Warren Webster at 5:30 this evening. The little Christmas trees that they made from debris from the structures, they're so cute. Anyway, we had those out in front of the museum, and people hand painted little seashells and hung them on the trees. And every time I walk by, I see fewer and fewer seashell ornaments on the trees, which made me mad at first. And then I thought, how sweet that someone like took that as a little gift from the museum
Yes,
and probably put that on their trees. So if you're out and about and you want to paint a little seashell and hang it on the tree, maybe somebody else will take your seashell.
They can sweetly steal it. That's so
I know,
nice,
they
right?
can
Yeah.
steal it. I think they just thought it was a gift. I thought it was there for the taking. I really do, because it's right there on the sidewalk and
Oh, makes
doesn't
sense.
say don't. you
Yeah,
know.
put a sign up that says take one, only
So
one.
take one, leave one, please.
Are they gonna stay up?
For a while. I don't have anything else to put there. So
I think it's great. I think it's wonderful.
I do love it.
Yeah.
It's very sweet. No permits there yet. So Friends of Gulf Beaches have applied for FEMA assistance for the artifacts and the interior materials, and the county has applied to FEMA for assistance for the exterior and the structural reconstruction. No site visits for either of those have been scheduled yet, so they're waiting for those. Donations are always accepted. The mailbox slot is working on the front door, so drop a check in the door and someone will come and pick it up.
Maybe we should do a donation and take a ornament, shell ornament.
Yeah, take an ornament, put $1 in the door or more.
Okay.
Chair, I did just have two things to add. I just wanted to remind the board that on the 28th will be the workshop with the commission to discuss the changes to the overlay and the Community Redevelopment District 8th Avenue. Staff is also working on applications for the February meeting, and we've started to get a few in that may be on the March meeting. We are holding the applications open till tomorrow for the February meeting. I think we're well over a dozen at this point, and we expect several for March. After the March meeting, we are going to try to work back toward our typical lead times for applications, which is usually about 5 weeks. We understand that emergencies come up, but that is something we're going to try to sustain. It's been a lot of staff time getting these applications moved forward. So the February meeting, we're working on the agenda now, and then we'll have several other items that we know are coming in for the March meeting, but we just wanted to make you aware of that.
Okay, and on the,
28th, is
Yes.
that at 4 o'clock?
That is, it might be at 4:30. Let me see here. That is at 4, yes.
and so that's our meeting with the commission, where we're going to talk about our proposed changes, right?
Right, this
Are you
is,
going to resend things before then? I mean, I know we probably had it sent a few months ago, but I don't know if it's changed or not.
we made some modifications based on the planning board's feedback, and this will be specifically to discuss in the same type of workshop format. After that, barring any major changes, we'll bring it back to the historic board. From there, it'll go on to the planning board and then return to the city commission for vote.
So we can tweak things on the 28th?
Yes.
If we need to, right?
Absolutely.
For sure. Okay, anything else? Yes, Lynn, hi.
Lynn Rossetti, historic planner for St. Pete Beach. We are having a community meeting here in City Hall with the Don Cesar and Bella Vista neighborhood associations to discuss the historic survey results with them. Let them know what we did, what we found, and I'm sure it's going to be a big question and answer type of thing. It's going to be, like I said, on the 22nd of January, beginning at 5:30.
Is that here in this room?
Right here in this room,
Okay.
At what time?
5:30.
Okay.
Okay.
We're wrapping up an agenda development right now, and, we hope a lot of people will come.
Will that be something that when you do the agenda, will you send a copy of that to the historic board?
We could do that,
I
absolutely.
think that would be excellent if you could include us, so it would be a reminder and we know what's going on.
What do you want to call this, Lynn, so I can get that information out to the Bella Vista Association?
I'm going to, do we have a specific name, Gil, for this?
It's Bella Vista and Don Cesar Community Meeting Historic Preservation Survey.
Oh, the DVPA. All right,
Flower that up a little bit, okay.
Yeah.
think of a good one. All right, so right now, then, our next meeting is set for February 6th. Any other matters? Adjourn. Thank you all.